Gretchen. This is the sixth video cast in the Servant Program. The first 5 video casts were level 1 of the program. Each level describes one concept. So I also call the levels days. So day 1 was what we just talked about in all the previous videos. So in day 1, there was the one concept was desire versus conflict. And then we multiplied that by cause, process, effect, and result. I call that CPR for short. CPR is the most summarized structure of truth. I came to that, I formed that hypothesis about 8 years ago, and then I've been testing it out ever since. So in every story, and every physics principle, and any living thing, in its structure, or how it's defined, is cause, process, effect, and result. So, for example, when we go to the dictionary to define a word, and we look at the definitions that are being given, they are trying to explain or define what that thing is by identifying its cause, process, effect, and result. Not all definitions give every single component of the definition. Usually they'll just give, one or two. But to get the fullness of the meaning behind a word, we need to identify its cause, process, effect, and result. So I invite you to do the same thing. I challenge you to look at words and look at concepts and look at, physics principles and anything that you personally study and find the cause, process, effect, and result in it. Again, those principles were discussed in the first 5 videos. So if you need to review them, go ahead. It's necessary that you get a foundational understanding of what those core principles are so that you can move on. So today is, we're starting with day 2. So it's the second level of the Servant Program. It's the principles that we're introducing are general versus specific. So we're increasing the level of our mathematical word equations. That's really what we're doing here. So we have day 1 times day 2 times cause, process, effect, and result. Or day 1 being desire and conflict times day 2 general and specific times cause, process, effect, result. So just today in this video, we're just going to look at day 1 times general and specific. We're going to look at desire versus conflict times general versus specific. So the reason I'm teaching these skills is because truth expands. And the moment we try to define it, it expands. And so to explain the same core principle, you can do it in a million ways. From any perspective, you can explain the same principle and it's still true, but you just have, various ways you can explain it. And so over the past 8 years, I've been trying to explain each of these concepts, and then I'll learn something new by the end of of that level, and then I'll come back and say, oh well, I understand this a lot better. I could explain it a lot better now, and so I rewrite it, but sometimes I'll get to explaining and I'll get a little too expanded in my explanation. I'll get a little too carried away, so I go back to the way I explained it the first time, and that seems a lot more simplistic and easily understood than another way I chose. So I just keep doing that, and so I feel the best way to teach you is to teach how I'm doing that, how this word mathematics that I'm using, and because I believe that if you can use it for yourself, then you can gain the perspective on your own, and the way you explain it is just going to be much more valuable to you than the way somebody else explains it to you. So I'm just teaching the core principles, showing the example here, but my hopes are that you'll take off with this method of evaluating truth and do it on your own. So my goal is just teach you that the order. Um, so the point is that you need to get the core concepts, of cause, process, effect, result, and then also know how to use them in the equations, how to multiply the words summarily, not get carried away and go all over the place ski-wompity. You need to be able to summarily or multiply in order, in an organized method, in order to know, in order to keep track of exactly where everything is. And when you do this, then your desire attainment process, you begin to see it with more clarity. You begin to see, when something is tied up in a knot and you're able to visualize its component parts, you're able to undo that knot. So I do have one warning though, and that is that if you're going to attempt to use this to help you with desire attainment or conflict resolution, you must be using it to then turn around and help other people obtain their desires and resolve their conflicts, not to hinder them. And if your goal or motivation is to hinder other people, getting ahead of them, whatever, then it's just not going to work. You're going to have pure motives. So today's question, starting with general versus specific times our desire, is: do you believe that when you obtain your desire, you will obtain greater joy in your life? We have both general and specific desires. Our most general desire is for joy. Think about the best feeling you have ever experienced. Describe it, write it down, ponder it, think about the circumstances that surround that feeling, and remember it. That is what I mean when I use the word joy. The more specific desires that we individually have are the ways in which each of us choose to obtain that joy. It's important to know what our specific desires are in order to obtain our general. When we answer the desire question, the original one that we had in day one, what is your desire? We're saying, when I obtain this desire, I believe I will obtain greater joy in my life. Conflict arises when our specific desire conflicts with our general one. So what we think is going to help us attain greater joy really isn't. That creates conflict inside of us. So is your specific desire conflicting with your general one? Sometimes we can be too general in the identification of our desires. We say, I just want to be happy. But that's a given. All of us want to be happy. When we identify our specific desires, we're saying, this is what I need. This is the path I need to take in order to be happy. This is who I am. And so when we define our specific desires, we are defining ourselves in a lot of ways. We're unique in that way, and we do need to identify the specific way that will help us obtain greater joy in our lives. So also just think of it this way, that when we identify our specific desire, we begin to identify the first level of process to obtain our desire, because we're beginning to define it. So take a shot at that. Is the desire that you have written down in day one, is it too general? Sometimes we can be too specific in our desires. We think the only way I'm ever going to be happy is if I obtain this specific thing. But if we believe that this is the only pathway to obtain joy, and then see it's impossible, we'll fall into despair. And it's in that condition that we usually start seeking lesser desires that give us pleasure in the moment. but don't have the power to fill us with that everlasting joy that we want to experience. So it's important to then step back a few paces and look at the possibilities. Brainstorm them. Look at the other things that are like what we want. We can study, okay, why do I want this? What is it about this desire that attracts me to it? We can identify the characteristics, and then we can say that, well, we can identify those characteristics that actually are helping us come to a more general level, and then we can say, okay, now where else can I find them? Now that I have this list of what I want, can I find it in another area, in another option? When we back up like that, we give ourselves a greater opportunity to be able to obtain our desire. It's important for us to understand how this variable of general versus specific toggles. So we can summarize a specific desire by taking it one level closer to joy. We ask ourselves, okay, how is the obtainment of this desire going to bring me greater joy in my life? And then we expand it by taking it a level down to the process that we engage in to obtain that joy. Say, we look at the past events in our lives, the ones that have brought us the greatest joy, and we evaluate our process during that event. What were we doing? And why did that bring us joy? When we evaluate that, we're able to understand the more specific desires that are inherent to us, to our uniqueness. So try toggling these variables with the desire that you identified in day one and see if that helps.